I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land? You now have the benefit of 2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever, and these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers.
When you said that, were you aware of the repercussions if people dishonorably discharged?
So just to put...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Chris Schul, a.k.a. the Esoteric Noetic, a.k.a. the host of the most conscious comedy podcast in the multiverse, The Chris Schul Journey. And I wanted to break down the statement that Candace Owens made on her podcast. And this is, in my opinion, the most important issue. I mean, there have been a lot of important issues over the last few years, obviously with jabs and whatnot. But this is one of these issues that I would die for. A lot of people in this world will go and die, be cannon fodder for their kings, for their politicians. They say they're doing it for their family, they're doing it for the love of country, patriotism, and so forth. But anyone that has been to war realizes that there is literally nothing on this planet, nothing in this multiverse, nothing in this Euclidean meat space reality, ladies and gentlemen, that is worse than warfare. War. What goes on in war? Yes, I know, straight to mind, what comes is rape, genocide, which is a part of war, also a part of war, starvation, horrible things that happen to people around the world. The only thing that is worse than this is being made to do these things, being made to go out and kill people for no other reason than being made to believe that there's somehow a threat to you by your governments, by your kings, by your leaders. Going out, dropping bombs on little kids, going out and seeing this stuff befall people around you. We've learned about this throughout history. This is what destroys your soul. This is what destroys your spirit. To see that kind of stuff, to witness that kind of stuff, to be immersed in that kind of stuff, and not to be changed by that, means either you're a psychopath, you were lost to begin with, and more likely, you will end up being changed to the point where you will lose all your humanity. And what we learned in the Vietnam War, one of the beautiful things about the Vietnam War, and look, there's nothing beautiful about war, but if I may, what we were able to experience is witnessing the public, the general public, were able to see what was happening in that war. And the beautiful thing about this is one of the benefits of technology. A lot of people say there's nothing great about technology, it causes all this destruction, but the beauty of the television is that around this time when we got to see power of television, power of the media, doing something good for a change, was what warfare is about. People would see these children with their skin torn off from napalm, would see the devastating effects of these weapons. They would see the misery that was befalling so many people around the world, people that may have come from a different country but look just like you and me. And what the overwhelming majority of people realized in the United States around that time, and I'd say around the world, was that no, enough. We don't want to be involved in this kind of stuff. And the problem often I find is that people do not realize the horrible nature of warfare. They simply have this beautiful idea, yeah, it's a necessary evil, we got to protect our safety, but they haven't really lived it. There's this idea that people that actually lived through war, the last thing they want is war. A soldier, a real warrior, will try to avoid it by all means necessary. But those that are quick to violence, quick to war, those that have never seen it, have never seen the bitter, horrible nature of warfare, they're the first people to call for it. And the one thing that I respect about someone's politics more than anything, is them not wanting to be involved in warfare. This is the one thing that I think a lot of people, the MAGA movement, were behind Donald Trump for. The fact that he was not someone that was wanting to go into unnecessary wars. I mean, we'd seen him do that a little in his last campaign, and of course, it's never justified to start a war with a country, but if you compare him to his counterparts and so forth, he had been the least warmongering president of the United States since JFK, and a lot of people had the faith that he would not involve the United States in another war. The most frustrating thing I find is that people will find all ways to justify this kind of stuff. And look, war is a horrible thing. Sometimes it may be necessary in the same way that if someone is trying to kill you, actively trying to kill you, absolutely, you have every right to thwart that violence. And if it is direct, it is open, a country is saying that we're going to war with you, they're launching bombs on you, absolutely, you have a right to defend yourself appropriately, to defend yourself against those that are actually instigating the violence, not to go out and indiscriminately bomb people and say that, look, you were going after these terrorists, and that's the collateral damage of war. I don't support that. Not buying that if that's what you're thinking. But absolutely, there are some situations where it's justified. But the idea of people saying that, look, we may need to go to war with Iran, and I'm already hearing talks of conscription, is so disgusting. I mean, I can't imagine that, even though this happened not that long ago, this is in the 70s, the Vietnam War, the idea that this country of freedom, the United States of America, right, that has this motto that we are the land of the free and the brave, that has this declaration of independence that is formulated on this idea of the light of freedom, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and has as its fundamental philosophy based off of Lockean property rights. This is shaped by Benjamin Franklin. This is shaped by the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, people that believed in the idea of individuality and learned throughout history what happens when you allow these dictators to get more and more power, that try to take away your sovereignty, that we must respect the freedom of individuals. The idea of saying that we're going to compel you to go to war, to fight some evil terrorists, and if you don't, we will take away your freedom. It's just the greatest perversity of this kind of ethic of the United States, and it just shows how far the United States has fallen from grace. The fact that we live in a society where this stuff is even spoken about. I'm hearing talks of Donald Trump saying that this is something that might be on the table, and it's not like we haven't done this in the past, and it's not like there aren't countries that do this already. But as I always say, just because something has been the way for a long time doesn't make it any more right, doesn't make it any more normal, doesn't make it any more natural. People are so caught up in this worldview where they see things that happen over and over again as being the only way things can be. They don't have the creativity to realize that there are many ways to achieve many different ends, and sacrificing someone's sovereignty is never a justification for trying to preserve security. As Benjamin Franklin once said, those that take away your freedom for security deserve neither freedom or security. And this is just a conversation that I think has been had time and time again, and always requires those to value freedom to step up and fight against the tyranny. As the saying goes, what's that phrase about the tree of liberty? Every once in a while needs to be watered by the blood of the heroes, the freedom fighters, and so forth. And look, I'm not sacrificing my blood. I ain't going to war for anyone. I'm not going to go kill anyone for that matter. There's just certain things that you should not do regardless, right? And it's just a weird thing to see so many people like what appears to be Piers Morgan making this argument that you should go out and fight because it's what your country wants.
Put this into context. This is like the Q&A, live Q&A portion at the end of my show, and being facetious, but also being completely honest that they should begin to consider, and that was somebody asking, what should we do? Like, should we leave the military because they also are recognizing that? No, I don't regret saying that. I don't regret
the repercussions if you do discharge dishonorably.
Okay, well, I would imagine that the people that are in the military who were going to, if they were going to listen to my podcast and they were going to dishonorably discharge, that they would know the consequences. So it's completely ridiculous. And again, we see this over and over again where people can't answer the broader questions. They try to suddenly peg in, well, you said this one thing. No, The broader conversation that we are having.
It's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip.
Yeah, I don't see why people find that a problem. I'm encouraging you. Okay, so let's say you contracted yourself into doing something that I think is a bad thing. I don't care what you've done. There's nothing wrong with me inciting you, once you've realized that that thing is no longer a good thing, to stop doing that, to break that contract. And regardless of what repercussions may fall, the fact that your family might not be able to get paid, you might lose your salary and so forth, that's besides the point. The problem I have with people that subscribe to this form of thinking is that everything is this, consequential-based worldview, utilitarianist nonsense, where it's like, well, you got to think about, hey, look, how about don't fucking go and kill other people in other countries? Yeah, but if I don't if I don't take my guns and try to kill people, well, I'm going to lose my job. And I won't be able to support my family. And, terrorists might drop bombs on us. There are a million different things that could happen to you. I don't know. I mean, when you have a look at the chain of cause and effect, everything is interconnected. It's like the butterfly effect. Yeah, it might lead to who knows what, but it doesn't make it right. And as soon as you subscribe to that, this is the fundamental essence of whether or not you were a man of honor, which the idea of being a patriot, a soldier, was supposed to be about, right? Whether or not you can do the right thing even in difficult times. Now, if you're told to go and fight some war in some foreign country that involves killing innocent people, and it's not a justifiable thing, you shouldn't do it regardless of what the consequences are. This idea that, hey, look, you have to look, how can you encourage something? That's what you should be doing. You should be encouraging people not to partake of things that are fucked up. Is that such a weird thing to say? And look, whereas I understand a lot of people might not want to do that, and may not want to encourage other people to do that, fine. But those that actually have the balls to do that, to do the right thing, that are virtuous, they should be celebrated, not somehow restricted from doing that. It's like, if you're not going to fight the fight, fair enough. But don't be telling people that they shouldn't fight the fight because you don't have the balls to fight the fight. Just because Candace is not a pussy like you, Piers, doesn't mean that you should be trying to take away her freaking cojones.
You play a clip and I'm trying to answer it. You know, you can't do that. You asked a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it,
and I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it. Is what the issue is. This is exactly.
I'm just repeating what you said.
You're not. You're playing what I said, and I'm responding to it and telling you that the broader piece of that conversation, when you have troops that are now asking that question, is they are recognizing that America is in steep decline, that our military comes back and they are treated like dirt. That a lot of these men, and we're talking about decades.
Yes, and this is what we saw in the Vietnam War, right, Pete? I don't understand this mentality. It's like, here's the thing. Even if I was doing something right, even if I thought it was right, and then, like, I'm doing something for someone right, and then I do that thing, my blood, sweat, and tears, and then you're like, look what I did for you, and then they're pissed off with me, I'd be thinking, fuck, I'm not going to go do that again for you. I mean, hell, I wasn't doing it for myself, I was doing it for you, and you don't even appreciate that shit. But for some weird thing, these people... And look, I realize it's complicated because it's not as clear-cut as that. There are a lot of people, obviously, that are in favor of this stuff, you know. But this mentality of, we got to support the troops. Here's the thing. I hate to break it to a lot of the troops, but a lot of Americans don't support you. A lot of your own countrymen don't support you if you're going to wars. Like and look, you know, call it the crazy liberals that you don't care about, right? But more so, most of the world doesn't support what you're doing. How about that? So you're not liked worldwide. You're not even liked that much in your own country. Why are you going to war? And here's the thing. This is not a clear-cut thing. I'm not saying that you're a bad person, you're doing bad things just because you're in the military. No, absolutely. There is a defensive purpose of any military. And look, there are situations that are justified. But look, you have to look at every situation for what it is. The idea of contracting your soul, right? It's kind of like, what do they say, signing a deal with the devil? It's like the idea of signing up and then your government can somehow have you involved in any war at once. And then you're somehow obligated to do that shit. Fuck that. I don't care what you said in the past. Suffer the consequences of it. If you have made a bad choice and you realize that it's the wrong thing to do, you don't continue doing it because you said you're going to do it. You stop it immediately. As soon as you realize you're doing something that's fucked up, like you've committed yourself, I get a lot of flack for this, right? Like, let's say you committed yourself to marrying the most amazing, beautiful woman, right? And you're like, and then you find out, oh, this person's an absolute vampire. She's a horrible person, right? Divorce her, end it. Regardless of what vows you made, regardless of what situation you were in, end it. It would be wrong for you. It would be dishonest to yourself to continue doing that thing, right? Now, granted that you may have to face some repercussions. I mean, you committed to something and now you're violating that. So there's the ethical issue of that. But I don't think you should be continuing to do something once you found out it's the wrong thing to do. It's incumbent upon you to suffer the consequences of you violating that agreement. Fair enough. But by no means should you continue doing that. And it's a hard thing to do. I get it. Sometimes we get caught up in bad deals. We get caught up being aligned to bad agreements. But this idea of continuing to do it, even though you've realized it's fucked up, yeah, look, that's a tough sell for me. And Candace is being absolutely brilliant with the way she's addressing this issue. I feel as if Piers Morgan's light work, if you're a woman of grounded principles, which Candace is. I mean, I don't agree with everything that she says, but she is someone that has cojones to stand by her principles. And it's not that Piers obviously doesn't have principles, but his worldview is so freaking malleable, and it goes up and changes back and forth depending on who the hell knows, man. But this argument is just a horrible argument, and it's concerning the fact that people don't realize this. I would be worried if I put this as an argument. It's like, well, are you really encouraging people not to go and like drop bombs on another country? You shouldn't be encouraged. Like, what? I mean, I would like to think most people don't look at war as being a positive thing. I mean, unless maybe it's a situation where you're going to war with, let's say, as we always say, the Nazis or something like that, but actively, immutably horrible people that have an ideology that is inherently bad and they're actively doing shit. Not some heuristic model of what might happen as some pseudo-profundity in regards to weapons of mass destruction, which the U.S. has been using for several decades to argue as to why it should go into the Middle East, which is, in my opinion, part of this whole plan in order to take control of the resources. This is from Kissinger. This goal to essentially take on the resources in the Middle East, and which I think is still being carried out to this day on some level. And I'm not saying that there aren't other factors that may contribute to the United States' involvement here, but don't end up being cannon fodder, being the arm of a tyrannical organization that doesn't really have the interests of the country at heart, the interest of what's really the heart of what the United States was about, which was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's about expanding the empire.
White American males come back and they're told that they're racist and they're treated like crap, that they're white supremacists, that they have a different vision for this country. So why are they dying in these overseas wars for Bibi Netanyahu? Okay, and let me again try to answer that question that I asked you at the beginning, which is, what has Zionism won America? What have these never ending? No, let me finish. Why won't you let me answer that? Why won't you let me actually say what people are recognizing? You come back and there are open borders and you're told that you are racist, okay? You come back and you're told that you are racist if you don't want open borders. Meanwhile, you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. It's a nonsense. And who's funding?
Oh, that's such a good point, man. I like that, yeah. But you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. Oh my. She got you there. And by the look on Pierre's face, I think he's somewhat what do they say? In a pickle. I do believe you're in a pickle, Piers Morgan. I do believe your British accent is not even able to diminish the significance of an argument here. When you say something that is as awful and as horrendous as advocating for war, unjust wars, well, you put yourself in a pickle, as we say.
These open borders, according to Barry Weiss, and I quote, Barry Weiss said this verbatim, the Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we are very proud of. And she was referencing the organization HIAS, and she says it explicitly, which she said what was started by them in the 1880s, which includes immigrants that have come in like Sergey Brin. They are still the organization that is operating at our border right now, okay? That is problematic, that we have open borders while we continually and routinely are told that we have to defend somebody else's borders, okay? And again, these never-ending wars in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu is the one that called for Americans to invade Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and now Iran, and we've done it. We're told...
And here's the thing, and this is the angle on this, that we're doing these wars for Israel. And obviously, the United States has Israel as its biggest ally, and a lot of people make the argument that the United States has nothing to benefit from doing this. And I would agree that it actually causes the United States a lot more blowback, as Ron Paul said. 100%. I don't think you can go to war with another country in the Middle East and think, oh, now you're somehow safeguarding security. No, I think people get angry and they want to retaliate. And that being said, I also think that it is in the interest of America. It's in the interest of America because all your politicians that are under the influence of these AIPAC guys that are getting, these politicians are getting all this money, well, it's benefiting them, the politicians, therefore it's benefiting America. If I get millions and millions of dollars for doing things to help America, and I'm an American, doesn't that help America? If I'm rich and I'm happy and other people around me are suffering because I'm American, I think it benefits America, right? America! Fuck yeah! See, this is what you love about the show, right? I make such salient, impeccable arguments like that. See? So, Candace, I don't know about that, man. I think it's a great idea for the United States to be involved in these wars. But no, but honestly, here that's only one angle of it. Yes, I think it's in the interest of Israel to obviously ally with the United States and help him take out the Middle East or these countries that are so vehemently against their freedom. I mean, the only reason that Israel is preemptively attacking Iran is that Iran wants to drop nuclear weapons on Israel, and unless Israel shows some kind of resistance, even though it's dropping these bombs, it might look as if they're starting all these problems. No, they're just thinking ahead and they're just trying to protect everyone, all right? But I also think it is part of the scheme, at least it had been, and I think it's still being carried out for the United States to essentially bring about its tentacles and gain resources in the Middle East. I mean, it's about oil, ladies and gentlemen. The game, I don't think, has changed that much in the last 20 years. And, there are levels to this, I think, on one level. And it's not to say that this isn't true. Yes, it is it may be on one level, on Trump's level in terms of his involvement in this in order to kind of meet the good, the congruence it has with Israel. But I think on another level, on a higher level, this is also carrying out the goals of this agenda in order to bring America into all this oil, this money, right?
Israel can defend itself, okay, but why do we have currently 2,000 troops that are in Syria under the guise of fighting ISIS? And like I said, we know Israel themselves fund terror-adjacent militants like they did to overthrow Assad. And we're done with the BS of, okay, well, they weren't really involved, Israel, in Afghanistan, because even when we fight those never-ending wars, Israel wins. Everybody knows that our boys were out there in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, okay? And do you know what happened after we allegedly, quote unquote, lost in Afghanistan? What happened to all those poppy fields, those poppy flowers that our military was guarding? Well, the opioid crisis hit America via the Sackler family, who quite literally built the School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. So we're just done, okay? And there's no way that we're going to go backwards. We're not going to allow you guys to emotionally condition us to go, oh, well, we got to protect Israel because of the Holocaust. It is over. They're imparting a Holocaust. America would like off this crazy train.
Oh, so salient. One of the most frustrating things I hear, this is just harping on the point she made, this is a common argument I hear from racists, from groups of people. They have a look at injustices that took place to their people and somehow use that event to justify injustices they commit on other people. And I've seen every race do this. Is not a race thing. This is not a Jew thing. This is a human thing. But I think it's pretty easy to see where it's been done right now, what group is actually partaking in this. And yeah, just the fact that, yes, your people suffered a great injustice, and yes, they were kicked out of much of Europe, and there are probably reasons as to why that happened. In fact, we could go down into a lot of those reasons, and a lot of them I don't like looking at things in terms of group, but it's justifiable, it's understandable. I'm in no way supporting the Holocaust, by the way. I think any person that wants to get rid of an entire ethnic group because of things their group has done in the past is in La La Land. That's absolutely despicable, and I'm not justifying that. But I think the idea of, once again, someone using the horrible things that have befallen their race in order to justify how they need to protect their race from being genocided now by committing genocides on other people is losing the fucking picture. And I see people do this all the time. I see a lot of my African American friends make this argument in regards to, yo, the black man. We got to protect the black man because brothers and sisters around the world, you know, we suffer under the white man's regime. Look what they did. Look what they did to my people. Had me working in the cotton fields, motherfuckers. My brothers and sisters, we suffered hard under the white man's regime, and now I need my reparations. Yeah, I'll fuck you up. Yeah, I'll pop some caps in people's asses, the white man's asses. But it's my racial reparations, yo. It shows you right, man, you benefiting from all this injustice, so you gotta pay. Yeah, that shit does not fly with me. It's not cool, man. Injustice, any threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And this is something that I find people always use to justify a lot of the horrible things that we're seeing. This racial card. And I, for one, do not subscribe to it. You know, I get accused of a lot of things. Lately, I've been accused of sitting on the fence, like a fence sitter, because that's the one thing I do actively try to do, though. Like, not actually be a fence sitter in terms of like, oh, I'm not going to pick a side because, you know, I just want to be on the fence. No, it's just not to actually be on a side and actually to be able to say what is right and what is wrong, regardless of what side I'm on. You know, there's nothing wrong with being on the fence in terms of not having a tribe, if that allows you to actually see things for what they are. That's my approach, you know. But by all means, I'll call a spade out for what it is, unless of course I'm getting lots of my Jew money, you know, because you know, APAC, if you want to give me any deals or anything like that, I promise I won't. I'll put in a word for you. You know, Jews are such beautiful people. I feel like the Jewish man, they are, and the black man, we have so much in common. You know, black man, we prejudicial towards the white people. You know, and the Jews are prejudicial towards the Goyim. We got so much in common. We got to work together. You know, we got to get that money together. And we got to take over the world. The black man and the Jewish man come together as one. Unite together. Ugh. I don't know why I'm going into my preacher voice over here. But I think we all need to come together as one. I think there's too much there's too much identity politics in the world.
Okay, for the benefit of viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 90, dishonorable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement, which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids.
Do your worst. Do your worst. With all the humility that I can muster, if you put a gun in my head, you ask me, you tell me to do something that is despicably immoral, like killing someone, I ain't budging, man. I'll plant myself like a tree beside the river of truth, and when told to move, I will say, no, you move. This attitude of, well, you know, I had to do it because I had to make ends meet, you know, I have family to feed, all that kind of shit. What people like Muhammad Ali did by protesting, by not going to fight in the Vietnam War, all that kind of stuff, that should be the norm. That should be the norm. The fact that that's some kind of like a big act. The thing is, and look, I use the word normal very differently. Normal to me now, and I've coined this definition. If people can obfuscate the definition of what it means to be racist and what it means to be anti-Semitic and so forth, like many of these people do, I'm going to redefine words like normal. Normal doesn't mean doing what everyone else is doing. Normal doesn't mean being in line with the majority. Normal means behaving in a way that is righteous, that is in line with the underlying essence of good, and is not contingent on what everyone else is doing. And the normal thing to do when everyone else is jumping off like lemmings to go fight in wars is to say, look, I don't want to be a lemming. You lemmings that want to go do that, yeah, go. You go do that. I'm going to go play some Xbox in my jail cell, and yeah, I might get fucked up the ass. No. I ain't taking up the ass for any war, you know. Okay, I'm going to war. No. But I'm not playing that game, you know. Like, there's no amount of money, unless it's you money. But you guys get the idea.
to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay.
I would. I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Piers. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I take that consequence any day to them being sent back over in a coffin because they died for Israel. So.
Okay, but yeah, I think the one thing you're missing. Look, I come from a big military family.
Word.
A lot of military in my family, and a lot of people.
So what? Why does that mean anything? My dad was lieutenant commander in the Navy. Like, so what? Yeah, he had some strong views in this as well. But like, I'm not fucking going to. And look, I don't have a problem with people going to war if it's a just war. Like, but don't be fucking going out and being involved in some war that is not just, and dropping bombs on innocent babies and so forth. And in a situation like this, it's much better to, like, who wants to? I mean, does anyone see what goes on in warfare? Like, it's the last thing. It's the absolutely last thing. The only situation I can think of is when, like, the empire is literally on the verge of taking away all freedoms, is launching some horrible campaign where it's dropping bombs in every country. Kind of what's going on right now with the United States of America, right? And the Rebel Alliance, like, we're the last. I'm like a Jedi, and the only I'm the world's only hope. Chocolate Jedi Kenobi, you are my only hope. I feel as if I'm trying to, like, think of a situation where some beautiful Princess Leia-like character is trying to get me to fight in a war, and I'd be like, yeah, I ain't doing that shit, man. You go do your own shit, man. Not gonna be some cannon fodder. You Jews can take care of your own business, y'all. But Chocolate Jedi Kenobi, please, you must do it for us. I promise I will give you a rub down. Oh, okay. You won't give me a rub down? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do some of that shit.
Fighting wars on behalf of the United States and not doing it because they think Bibi Netanyahu wants them to. They're doing it because
some of them do that, and they write into my show and I answer the question.
But many of them won't, and they might be offended by you suggesting that's the only reason they're doing it.
So what? Oh yeah, people can be offended for 1,001 reasons. Okay, I'm offended by the fact that you're saying that. I'm offended by the fact that you're offended that I'm offended that I'm offended. So what? That's not really an argument.
They can watch your show and they can be offended all they want, but I think it's more offensive the way that our military is treated, the veterans are treated, and the gaslighting that takes place when we're told that we have to defend everybody's borders, whatever.
I actually think America treats its veterans better than almost any country in the world.
I mean, this has always been an open conversation, and I'm just saying that if my boys were being drafted to fight this war in Iran, I would be like, you know what, honey, take the other option. And that's not because it's cowardice. It's because when you sign up for the military...
Okay, but I would say that the pilots...
You are pledging that you are doing something that is going to better your country.
Candace, like
I said, our country has been in steep decline since we haven't part of this foreign policy, which is just whatever Israel wants.
Okay, but you made that point. But what I would say to you is the only people so far that have been involved from the American military were the extraordinarily courageous and skillful pilots who flew these B-2 bombers and attacked the nuclear sites and got back safely.
So okay, yes, extraordinarily talented, I'm sure, but also, like, I don't have respect for people who do it. Yes, you go on and drop bombs on a foreign country, guys. You're not the good guys. I'm sorry to say that. And look, I realize this is going to piss a lot of people off, but we're in the same way that people don't really look at rapists in a good light. Most of the world, does not look at American soldiers doing their peacekeeping by dropping bombs on people in a good light. And I know that some of us feel as if we need to uphold that notion because it's going to offend them if they hear that. That's just the reality. It's not just how I feel. I'm being honest in regards to my assessment. I realize in the United States it might be a very different thing. I get the impression there's this whole attitude of, look, we must support the troops, all that kind of stuff. I don't subscribe to that. I know a lot of Americans don't subscribe to that. This is why there's a split in the MAGA movement right now. And I think Vietnam War is evident of the fact that a lot of people don't support that. You can't use the argument that you're doing things in good light and you have good motivations behind what you're doing and still commit evil things. That's the kind of arguments I've heard some Israeli people make towards their justification for what's going on in Palestine right now. That, look, this moral equivalency, like, you're comparing us to, horrible people. Like, we're doing it in order to preserve our country. It's like, I don't care if you kill someone because you wanted money or if you kill someone because you wanted the best for your country. They're irrelevant. Both those distinctions are irrelevant to me. They're both egregious things. End of story. And they don't even come into the equation. It's not like, okay, you're doing it because you're doing it in order to protect your country. No. And I think most people, I could be wrong, share that. viewpoint. They wouldn't be like, yeah, I know. No, this cop killed me, but he was just being told to kill me. I know this person, dropped bombs on my country, but look, he was doing it to protect his country, so it's okay. I don't think people really feel that way when they suffer that. I don't think I would either. I would be angry at the fact that that person did it, and the fact that your country, your leader has orchestrated that, and I don't care the fact that you're trying to protect your country. Now, if it was actual self-defense, like you had dropped bombs on me because I'd done something bad to you, I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, but no, I wouldn't feel somehow more accepting of what you've done just because you were somehow doing it under some deluded idea of righteousness. It doesn't work like that. Anyway, let me know if I'm speaking out of my chocolate behind. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And let us know how you feel about war. Is it ever justified to go and drop bombs on people in other countries? And do I need to stop being such a hippie, bleeding heart liberal and get on board with the program? Team MAGA, or MEGA as we say. I need to get online with World War III and start get on the right side of history, or at least the side of the victors, right? America! Hell no. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, remember there are 3 things that cannot remain hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the wisdomatic truth bombs of yours truly. Peace out, keep it real. Drop some comments below. Ow! I don't even care. There's lonely